My dad moved my pregnant sister-in-law into my house, claiming family doesn't need permission. So I told him you'd better load everything back onto that truck before the police arrive. I worked my finger to the bone for the past 5 years to buy my own house. It's nothing fancy, a 3-bedroom ranch in a decent neighborhood, but it's mine. I bought it 18 months ago while living in a cramped studio apartment. This house represents years of work weeks, missed social events, and cheap dinners. It's my sanctuary, my investment, and my future. My family situation is complicated. My father, Robert 57M, has always been the type who makes grand gestures without thinking them through. He's generous to a fault, which sounds nice until you realize he's generous with other people's resources too. Growing up, he'd volunteer my time, loan out my belongings, and make commitments on my behalf without asking. My mother, Patricia 55F, enables this behavior by never standing up to him and guilt-tripping anyone who does. Then there's my younger brother, Tyler, 20M. Tyler dropped out of college last year to find himself, which apparently meant getting his girlfriend, Ashley, 19F, pregnant after knowing her for 3 months. They currently live with her parents, but that situation recently imploded when Ashley's father discovered Tyler hasn't been contributing to household expenses despite working part-time at a warehouse. Last Thursday, I came home from a business trip to find a U-Haul in my driveway, and my father directing Tyler and Ashley as they carried boxes toward my front door. Ashley was visibly pregnant, about 6 months along from what I could tell. My father had used the spare key I'd given him for emergencies to unlock my house. I immediately blocked the doorway and demanded an explanation. My father, with his trademark dismissive wave, said, "James, your brother needs help. Ashley's parents kicked them out and they have nowhere to go. You have 2 empty bedrooms just sitting there. Family helps family." The audacity of this man. He didn't call, didn't text, didn't ask. He just decided that my house was now a shelter for my brother's poor life choices. Absolutely not, I said, my voice steady despite the rage building inside me. "They're not moving in here." Ashley started crying. Tyler looked between us nervously. My father's face turned red and he launched into a tirade about how I was selfish, how I'd forgotten where I came from. How could I turn away a pregnant woman in need? The entire neighborhood could probably hear him. Here's where I probably crossed the line in their eyes. I pulled out my phone and called 911. "I'd like to report a trespassing in progress," I said, maintaining eye contact with my father. "Several individuals are attempting to move into my house without permission." My father's jaw dropped. Tyler grabbed Ashley's hand, looking panicked. "James, what the heck? I'm your brother and this is my house," I replied. "You have 5 minutes to get everything back in that truck before the police arrive." They scrambled to remove the boxes they'd already unloaded, while my father screamed about how I was a disgrace to the family. The police arrived 12 minutes later. I explained the situation calmly, showed them my deed, and asked them to issue formal trespassing warnings to all 3 individuals. The officers were professional and sympathetic to my position. They made it clear to my father, Tyler, and Ashley that they were not to return to my property without my explicit permission. After they left, I spent the evening taking additional precautions. I changed all my locks. A smart lock system with unique codes that I can monitor and change remotely. I installed a comprehensive security camera system that covers every angle of my property with motion detection and cloud storage. I put up no trespassing signs that clearly stated violators would be prosecuted. I even called my lawyer to draft a cease and desist letter. Within an hour of the police leaving, my phone exploded with messages and calls. My mother was devastated by my cruelty. My aunt called me a monster. My father left a voicemail saying I was no longer his son. Tyler texted that I'd ruined his life and endangered his unborn child. Here's what pisses me off the most. Not once did any of them acknowledge that what my father did was wrong. Not once did they apologize for trying to hijack my home. They just expected me to roll over and accept 2 adults and soon-to-be infant moving into my space, indefinitely rent-free because family. I worked too hard for this house to let anyone family or not treat it like a free hotel. I have boundaries and I'm not apologizing for enforcing them. Tyler is an adult who made adult decisions. He can figure out adult solutions that don't involve commandeering my property. My colleagues think I did the right thing. My best friend Michael said he would have done the same, but the family group chat is calling for my head, and I'm starting to wonder if I should have handled it differently. Am I the bad one for going nuclear on family, trying to move into my house without permission? Update 1. 2 days later. The situation has escalated exactly as I predicted. I'm documenting this for legal purposes and my own sanity. Yesterday morning, I woke up to my security cameras alerting me to motion in my driveway at 6 a.m. It was my mother standing at the edge of my property respecting the trespassing warning, at least holding a sign that said, "Have mercy on your family." She stood there for 2 hours before I finally went outside. "Mom, this is embarrassing," I said from my doorway. She started sobbing immediately. "James, please, Ashley is pregnant. They're sleeping in their car. How can you live with yourself?" "They're sleeping in their car because Tyler chose not to pay rent at Ashley's parents' house despite having a job. That's not my problem to solve. But you have the space. You have the means. What good is success if you won't help family?" I took a deep breath. "Mom, Dad tried to move strangers into my house without asking. Yes, Ashley is essentially a stranger. I've met her twice. He violated my trust, broke into my home, and tried to make unilateral decisions about my property. And instead of anyone apologizing for that massive breach, you're all attacking me for defending my boundaries." "She's carrying your nephew," my mother wailed. "A nephew I'll be happy to meet and have a relationship with once Tyler gets his act together, but that doesn't entitle them to live in my house." She left after another hour of pleading, but not before informing me that the entire extended family was disgusted with me. Apparently, my father had called everyone with his version of events, conveniently leaving out the breaking and entering part. That afternoon, I received a call from my grandmother, Elizabeth, 82F. Now, Grandma is usually the sensible one, so I actually answered. "James," she said in her no-nonsense tone. "I heard what happened." I braced myself for another lecture. "Good for you," she continued, surprising me. "Your grandfather and I worked our entire lives for what we had. We helped family when we could, but we never let anyone take advantage. Your father has always been too free with other people's belongings. Don't you dare cave to their emotional manipulation." It was the first supportive family voice I'd heard, and I nearly cried from relief. That evening, Tyler showed up at my workplace. Security wouldn't let him in. Thank God for badge-controlled access, but he waited by my car. I saw him on the parking garage cameras and called security to escort me to my vehicle. "This is getting ridiculous, Tyler," I said, as security stood nearby. "You're destroying my life," he shouted. "Ashley's terrified. She hasn't stopped crying. The stress is bad for the baby." "Then perhaps you should have thought about that before having unprotected sex with someone you barely knew while having no stable income or housing," I replied coldly. "Your poor planning is not my emergency. I'm your brother. Yes, and as my brother, you should have enough respect for me to understand that my home is not your backup plan. Dad shouldn't have tried to move you in without asking, and you shouldn't have gone along with it. Where are we supposed to go? There are shelters. There are programs for pregnant women. Ashley's parents might take her back if she goes alone. You could get a second job or a full-time job and rent a room somewhere. You have options. They're just not as comfortable as living rent-free in my house." He called me every name in the book before security made him leave. I've added his license plate to the security watch list at work. I've also discovered through a cousin that my father has been telling people I physically threw a pregnant woman onto the street, that I changed the locks while they were inside and trapped them, and that I laughed while Ashley cried. Complete fabrications. But several relatives have blocked me on social media believing these lies. My house is my house. I'm not backing down. Update 2. 2 weeks later. The last 2 weeks have been a masterclass in family manipulation tactics, but I've held firm. I want to document the escalation for anyone dealing with similar boundary-crossing relatives. First, the flying monkeys intensified. I received calls from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years, all with the same script about family obligation and Christian charity. My Uncle Thomas, 54M, even offered to pay me rent for them. But when I asked for a lease agreement, first and last month's rent, and a security deposit, he backpedaled fast. Funny how everyone wants to be generous with my property but not their own money. The social media campaign ramped up too. My mother started posting vague statements about children who forget their roots and the coldness of success. My father shared articles about homelessness among pregnant women, tagged me in posts about family values, and even created a GoFundMe titled "Help Tyler and Ashley Get Housing," where he described me as a wealthy brother who refuses to help. I reported it for defamation, and it was taken down, but not before raising $300 from sympathetic relatives. Then came what I call the ambush. Last Tuesday, I agreed to meet my mother for coffee at a neutral location to discuss the situation calmly. I should have known better. I arrived to find not just my mother, but my father, Tyler Ashley, and my Aunt Jennifer, 52F, waiting at a large table. "This is an intervention," my aunt announced as I stood there, coffee in hand, considering walking out. I sat down anyway. An intervention for what? Having boundaries. They had prepared statements. My mother read hers first, tears streaming down her face about how she didn't raise me to be heartless. My father's was about disappointment and family legacy. Tyler's was short and angry, mostly accusations. Ashley spoke about her fears for the baby, how she never had a stable family, and hoped Tyler's would be different. I let them all finish. Then I pulled out my phone and played the security footage from the day they tried to move in. Let's be clear about what actually happened, I said. Dad used an emergency key to break into my house. He attempted to move people in without my knowledge or consent. When caught, instead of apologizing, he berated me. This isn't about me being heartless. It's about a massive violation of trust and boundaries. My father tried to interrupt, but I kept going. Tyler, you're 20 years old. You made the adult decision to have unprotected sex. You made the adult decision to drop out of college. You made the adult decision to not pay rent at Ashley's parents' house. Ashley, you made the adult decision to keep this pregnancy knowing your financial situation. These were all choices, adult choices with adult consequences. But the baby Ashley started will be born to parents who need to figure out how to provide for it. That's what Michael and Patricia did when they had me and Tyler. They didn't move into someone else's house without permission. My aunt accused me of being materialistic. I laughed. I'm materialistic because I won't let people steal my material. That's rich. Where's your offer to house them, Jennifer? You have a 4-bedroom house with your kids grown and gone. She sputtered about it being different. They were renovating. It wasn't a good time. Everyone had excuses for why they couldn't help, but somehow I was the villain for saying no too. I left after making one thing clear. Anyone who shows up at my property will be arrested for trespassing. I have cameras. I have a lawyer. I'm done discussing this. The next day, I got a call from Ashley's mother, Linda, 44F. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. James, I heard what's been happening. I wanted you to know that we didn't kick Ashley out. We asked Tyler to start contributing since he'd been living here for 3 months, working and not paying a dime. He convinced Ashley to leave, saying your family would take care of them. We would take Ashley back tomorrow if she came alone, but she won't leave Tyler. This was illuminating. Tyler had manufactured this crisis banking on family guilt to secure free housing. I thanked Linda for the information and suggested she reach out to Ashley directly. Maybe knowing she had options would help. That weekend, I installed additional security measures. A fence with a locked gate, more cameras, and a security system that alerts my phone and a monitoring service if anyone breaches the perimeter. Overkill maybe, but I'm not taking chances. My grandmother called again yesterday. They're staying with your cousin, Nicholas, she informed me. Paying rent. Imagine that. Tyler suddenly found more hours at work when faced with actual homelessness. Funny how motivation works. So they had options all along. They just wanted the easiest one, my house rent-free, obligation-free. I'm maintaining no contact with most of the family for now. The stress of constantly defending my reasonable boundaries is exhausting. My work has suffered from the distraction, and I'm considering taking a few days off to reset. For anyone facing similar situations, document everything. Install cameras, get legal advice, and remember, no is a complete sentence, even when family is involved. Update 3. 6 weeks later, I thought things had calmed down, but last week brought a new development that confirmed every decision I've made was correct. Tyler and Ashley have been living with my cousin Nicholas for about a month. According to Nicholas's wife, who reached out to me privately, it's been a nightmare. Tyler doesn't help with chores, complains about the accommodations. They have a furnished basement apartment and is consistently late with the already reduced rent Nicholas agreed to. Ashley has been better, but she follows Tyler's lead. But that's not why I'm updating. Last Monday, I got a call from my security company at 2 p.m. Someone had tried to access my property and was currently attempting to break in through a back window. I immediately authorized them to contact police and rushed home from work watching the live feed from my phone. It was Tyler. He was trying to jimmy open my bedroom window with a crowbar. The police arrived before I did, catching him in the act. He was arrested for attempted breaking and entering, possession of burglary tools, and violation of a trespassing order. I pressed charges for everything. When I arrived home, Ashley was sitting in a car on the street sobbing. I approached carefully, staying on my property. He said he was just going to get some of his old things, she said. Things he left here years ago? Tyler hasn't lived here in 4 years, Ashley. He has nothing here. He was breaking into my house in broad daylight. She admitted then that Tyler had been planning this for days. He figured I'd be at work, that he could get in, stay there, and establish residency before I knew. He'd researched squatters' rights online and thought if they could just live there for 30 days, I couldn't kick them out. He was planning to change the locks once inside and claim I'd given him permission. The sheer audacity and stupidity of this plan astounded me. Everything was on camera. The trespassing orders were well documented. Did he really think this would work? Ashley also revealed that Tyler had been telling her I'd eventually cave, that family always does, that once the baby was born, I'd feel guilty and let them move in. He'd been so confident that he'd turn down a full-time position at his warehouse because they wouldn't need it soon. Tyler was released on bail, paid by my parents. Naturally, the family explosion was immediate and nuclear. My father called me screaming that I was sending my brother to prison. My mother sent a long text about how she never thought she'd raised someone capable of such cruelty. Various relatives chimed in with their opinions about prosecuting family. Only Grandma Elizabeth supported me. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes, she said. Maybe some consequences will finally teach him responsibility. The legal proceedings are ongoing, but Tyler's lawyer reached out about a plea deal. I'm considering it with conditions. Tyler stays away from my property permanently, gets a full-time job, and attends counseling. Ashley seems to be reconsidering their relationship. The arrest was a wake-up call about Tyler's character. Then came the twist that validated everything. My security system alerted me to motion 3 nights ago at 3 a.m. I checked the cameras to find my father at my gate with a locksmith. They were actually trying to change my locks. I called 911 immediately and went outside with my phone recording. "What the hell are you doing?" I demanded through the gate. My father had the audacity to claim he was reclaiming the house for the family. He said since he'd helped me with a down payment, a lie. I have all my bank records. He had a right to determine who lived there. The locksmith, realizing something was wrong, started packing up. My father tried to stop him, insisting he owned the property. The police arrived quickly. I showed them my deed, the trespassing orders, and the security footage. My father was arrested for attempted breaking and entering and conspiracy to commit fraud. He told the locksmith he was the homeowner locked out. My mother called me crying, begging me not to press charges against my father. I told her he'd made his choice when he showed up at my property with a locksmith at 3 a.m. "He's trying to help Tyler," she sobbed. "He's trying to commit a crime. And this is exactly why Tyler thinks rules don't apply to him, because Dad models that behavior. I'm done. Completely done. I'm prosecuting both of them to the fullest extent of the law. I've also sent cease and desist letters to every family member who's harassed me about this situation. I'm considering a restraining order against my parents and Tyler." Nicholas kicked Tyler and Ashley out after the arrest. Ashley's parents took her back in alone. Tyler is living in his car, which is apparently my fault. According to the family narrative, I've started therapy to deal with the stress and guilt they've piled on me. My therapist has been invaluable in helping me understand that their financial irresponsibility and criminal behavior are not my problems to solve. To anyone dealing with similar boundary-crossing family members, it will escalate before it gets better. They will test every boundary you set. Document everything. Involve law enforcement when necessary, and don't feel guilty for protecting what you've worked for. Final update. 3 months later, Ashley gave birth to a healthy baby girl 2 weeks ago. I know this not because anyone told me directly, but because Nicholas's wife, Sarah, reached out with a picture and an update on the whole situation. I want to share this final chapter because it perfectly illustrates why maintaining boundaries, no matter how harsh they seem, is sometimes the only way to protect yourself and ultimately help others find their own strength. After Tyler's arrest for attempted breaking and entering, he took a plea deal. 2 years probation, 200 hours of community service mandatory counseling, and a permanent restraining order keeping him 500 feet from my property. He also had to pay restitution for the damage to my window and the emergency locksmith call-out fee from when my father tried to change my locks. My father's case was more complex. He was charged with attempted breaking and entering, criminal trespass, and attempted fraud. His lawyer argued for dismissal based on family miscommunication, but the 3 a.m. locksmith video was damning. He received 1 year probation, 100 hours of community service, and his own restraining order. The judge specifically noted that attempting to change locks on someone else's property showed premeditated intent to commit fraud. The family reaction was predictable. I became the pariah who sent his father and brother into the criminal justice system. My mother filed for separation from my father. Apparently, this was the final straw in a pattern of increasingly erratic behavior. Some relatives still won't speak to me. Others have quietly reached out to say they understand, even if they can't say so publicly. But here's where the story takes an interesting turn. Ashley moved back in with her parents immediately after Tyler's arrest. Without Tyler's influence, she enrolled in an online program to finish her certification as a dental assistant. Her parents helped with childcare while she studied. She got a job at a dental office with good benefits before giving birth. Tyler, forced to face reality without family enablers, finally got that full-time warehouse position. He's living with a coworker, paying actual rent, and attending his court-mandated counseling. According to Sarah, the counselor has been working with him on accountability and entitlement issues stemming from our father's enabling behavior. The baby Emma was born healthy despite all the stress. Ashley sent me a message through Sarah. "Thank you for not enabling us. It forced me to grow up and be the mother Emma deserves." Tyler hasn't met his daughter yet. Ashley filed for child support and full custody, stating that Tyler's criminal behavior and instability make him an unfit parent currently. She's not wrong. My father has been living in an extended stay motel since the separation. The criminal record has affected his job. He was in sales, and he's had to take a lower position. My mother says he's finally understanding that actions have consequences, something he apparently never fully grasped before. My mother and I have started tentatively rebuilding our relationship. She attended therapy on her own and realized she'd been enabling both my father and Tyler for years. She apologized for the guilt-tripping and manipulation, acknowledging that I had every right to protect my property and life from their chaos. "I should have been proud that you knew your worth and defended it," she said during a recent phone call. "Instead, I tried to guilt you into being a doormat like I was." Grandma Elizabeth passed away last month. In her will, she left me her vintage jewelry collection for having the backbone the rest of the family lacks. She left Tyler a note. "I hope by the time you read this, you've learned what your brother tried to teach you. That respect for others' boundaries is non-negotiable." Nicholas and Sarah told me that Tyler's time with them was exhausting. He expected to be treated like a guest rather than a tenant, complained constantly, and tried to manipulate them with the same tactics our father uses. They were relieved when he left and said my early firm boundaries probably saved me years of frustration. I've maintained the security systems and restraining orders. There have been no violations, though I occasionally see my father or Tyler drive past my house slowly. The cameras capture everything, and I forward the footage to my lawyer each time building a case if they ever violate the orders. My house remains my sanctuary. I've been able to focus on my career without family drama, earning a promotion that would have been impossible with the stress of unwanted house guests. I'm in therapy working through the guilt and family trauma. Learning that family helps family doesn't mean family gets to destroy your life. The irony isn't lost on me. By refusing to enable Tyler and Ashley, I forced them to become actual adults. Ashley is a working mother with her own place benefits and a support system. Tyler is employed full-time and learning accountability through counseling and consequences. They're both better off than they would have been living rent-free in my house, unable to continue making poor choices. Would they have grown without hitting rock bottom? I doubt it. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is refuse to cushion someone's fall. They need to feel the impact to learn to stop jumping off cliffs. For anyone reading this who's dealing with similar boundary-crossing family members, you are not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Your success is not an invitation for others to take advantage. Family doesn't mean doormat, and sometimes the most loving thing you can do is say no and stick to it no matter how much they scream. I don't regret calling the police. I don't regret pressing charges. I don't regret protecting what I worked years to achieve. The only thing I regret is that it took such extreme measures for grown adults to learn basic respect for boundaries. I'm 27 years old, and I own my house. A house where the only person who decides who lives there is me. That's not selfish, that's not cruel, that's just basic property rights and human dignity. And if that makes me the villain in their story, so be it. I'd rather be a villain with boundaries than a hero without a home.